He kicked wife out while she was in labor, unaware of her $20 million inheritance, and his new wife works for her. Scream all you want. Die with your baby for all I care. Take your pain and your screaming with you. You'll never ruin my life again. You're nothing to me now. Get out. Those were the vicious words her husband spat as labor pains ripped through her body. Instead of holding her hand, he threw her into the streets. Instead of love, he gave her humiliation and abandonment in her darkest hour. He thought he had crushed her spirit forever, leaving her to suffer alone like she was less than nothing. But what he never imagined was that the same woman he cast out in agony would one day rise in a way that no one could have seen coming. A rise that would not only shake his pride, but also tear apart the very marriage he thought would bring him joy. Sometimes the ones you discard in pain return with power. Sometimes the woman you thought would die in silence becomes the one whose shadow you cannot escape. This is the story of a woman betrayed at her weakest, who rose in strength no one could deny. And today it is being retold by me. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please, subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and how this touched you. The first contraction hit like a wave she couldn't outrun. Emma Parker leaned on the wall and called out, "Mark, Mark, please. It's time. We have to go." He stood in the doorway, suit jacket half on, phone in his hand. He didn't look worried. He looked annoyed. "Now?" he said. "Of course it would be now." "Please," she breathed, bending at the waist. "The hospital. My bag is ready. Just help me to the car." Mark's mouth curled. "Help you? After everything?" "No." She blinked. "What do you mean, no?" He stepped closer, voice getting meaner with every word. "You don't tell me when to jump. You don't trap me with tears and timing. I'm done." Another contraction seized her. She grabbed the doorframe, sweat rising on her skin. "I'm in labor, Mark. I'm not trapping you. I'm having our baby." He snorted. "Our baby? We both know what you wanted, a leash. A way to keep me tied to your chaos. Not happening." "Please," she whispered, voice shaking. "Please, don't do this." He picked up the suitcase by the door, wrenched the handle up and flung it outside. The bag bounced on the steps and fell to the walkway. Her breath stopped. "Scream all you want. Die with your baby for all I care," he said, eyes like glass. "Take your pain and your screaming with you. You'll never ruin my life again." "Mark," she cried. "Don't. You're nothing to me now," he said. "Get out." He shoved her, not hard enough to send her flying, but hard enough to make the message clear. She caught herself on the railing and felt a rush of pressure low in her back. The door slammed so hard the glass rattled. Emma stared at the wood grain, at the spot where her hand had touched that door 1,000 times. Another contraction tore through her. She clutched the railing and bit the inside of her cheek to stop from screaming. A porch light flicked on across the street. A neighbor stepped out in a robe. "Everything okay?" the woman called, voice small and curious. Emma forced herself upright. I need a ride to the hospital." The neighbor hesitated. "It's late," she said, glancing past Emma toward the house. "Where's Mark?" "Inside," Emma said. Her voice cracked. "Please." The woman hugged her robe closer. "I can call you a cab." "Thank you," Emma whispered, swallowing humiliation like a stone. The neighbor vanished inside. Time slowed to a crawl. A cold wind moved through the street and touched her sweat. She tried to breathe like the nurse in class had taught her. Focus on the wall. Focus on anything but the pain and the fact that the man she married had closed the door. The neighbor returned and held her phone out. "Cab will be 10 minutes, she said. "Do you need a towel or something?" "I'll be fine," Emma said, because there was nothing else to say. The woman lingered, then went back inside and shut her door too. Emma breathed and bent and breathed again. Minutes bled into each other. The cab's headlights finally appeared at the corner. The driver took one look at her and jumped out. "Hospital?" he asked. "Yes," she said, climbing in slow. "Please. Fast." On the ride, she pressed her forehead to the cool window and tried not to cry. She failed. Tears ran. "Anyway," the driver glanced back. "Call your husband?" he said, gentle. She stared at the dark screen of her phone. "No." He nodded and drove. The city at night looked normal, like nothing had happened. Stores closed. Streetlights hummed. Somewhere, someone laughed. Emma dug her nails into the seat. At the hospital, the driver helped her to the entrance. "You're okay," he said softly. "You're here. Now." Automatic doors opened with a sigh. The waiting room was fluorescent and tired. A triage nurse looked up, saw everything in one glance, and stood. "How far apart?" the nurse asked, steering her to a chair with practice and kindness. 3 minutes, Emma said. "Maybe 2. I can't tell. It hurts." "First baby?" "Yes." "Any support person?" the nurse asked, scanning the doors for a partner who wasn't coming. Emma shook her head. "Just me." The nurse's eyes warmed for a second. "I've got you," she said. "Let's go." They took her vitals. They strapped monitors to her belly. The baby's heartbeat filled the small room with a rapid drum. Emma closed her eyes and let it anchor her. "You're brave," the nurse said. "You're doing good." Brave felt like a word that belonged to other people. Emma nodded anyway. Hours built and broke. Pain rose and fell. Nurses changed shifts. A doctor with soft hands came in, introduced herself as Dr. Ortiz, and checked Emma's progress. "We're getting there," Dr. Ortiz said. "You're strong." Emma turned her face to the wall and breathed. Memories broke through, rude and sharp. Mark's voice. Mark's laugh when he used to make her tea. Mark's hands on her shoulders the day he promised forever. When had it tilted? When had love become a scoreboard she didn't know they were keeping? Her phone buzzed on the tray. She glanced. A text from a number she hadn't saved with a name. "He's with me now. Focus on your little project." Another contraction slammed through her. She squeezed the rail and whispered, "God, please." The nurse touched her shoulder. "Don't read anything tonight," she said softly. "Let it wait." Emma nodded, tears running clean down her face. In another part of the city, Mark stood in a clean kitchen that had stopped feeling like home weeks ago. Vanessa leaned on the counter, pretty and polished, her hair perfect even at 2 a.m. "Is she gone?" Vanessa asked. "Finally," Mark said, opening a bottle. "She'll be fine. She's dramatic." "You pushed your wife out while she was in labor," Vanessa said. "That's not dramatic. That's intense." "She's not my wife," Mark said. "Not anymore. You know what she is? A liability. The last year has been a circus. Mood swings, tears, accusations. You saw it." Vanessa sipped and watched him. "I saw you texting other women while she slept." He shrugged. "She was sleeping. I was awake." "Of course," Vanessa murmured, and tucked that away. He moved close and kissed her like he was proving a point. She let him, then pulled back, eyes bright. "When do we go public?" she asked. "Photos. Ring. New life. I want them to see it." "Soon," he said. "After she's handled." "Handled how?" Vanessa asked. "Her mother's on my side," Mark said. "Margaret understands stability. She'll tell everyone Emma was unstable. It won't be hard to sell. She cried in the grocery store once because they were out of grapes. People remember things like that." Vanessa laughed. "Poor Emma. No grapes." "Poor me," Mark corrected. "No peace." Back at the hospital, the hours turned liquid. Emma's world narrowed to the rhythm of breath and the nurse's voice, to the doctor's steady hands and the way the room's clock ticked like it was counting for her. She asked for pain relief when the edge blurred. They gave it. Took some of the fire, not the work. Between contractions, her mind wandered to names she had loved since she was a girl. Names she'd whispered alone in the old house she had grown up in, when the world felt safe and simple. Her mother's voice cut across the memory like a knife. "Emma, you dramatize things," Margaret would say when Emma cried as a child. "It wasn't that bad. Girls like you need to learn to be quiet. Girls like you." She had let that settle in her bones. The door opened. A social worker stepped in and spoke to the nurse in a whisper. The nurse nodded and left for a moment. When she returned, her mouth was drawn. "What?" Emma asked, hoarse. "Your mother is here," the nurse said carefully. "Do you want to see her?" Emma's first instinct was no. Her second was softer. She nodded once. "Okay." Margaret entered with a tight purse and tighter eyes, perfume too sweet for the room. "Emma," she said, tone flat as a table. "You look tired." "I'm in labor," Emma said. Margaret sat on the chair like it might stain her. "I heard. Mark called." Emma flinched. "He called you?" "He's worried about you," Margaret said. "He said you've been difficult." "I begged him for a ride," Emma said. "He threw me out." Margaret's mouth tightened. "He said you were screaming. You frighten people with your emotions. You always have." Emma stared. "Mom, we need to talk about what's best for the baby," Margaret said, glancing at the nurse as if hoping for backup. "Mark is stable. He has a home, a good job. You don't even have a plan. Maybe we discuss custody, short term, until you're settled." The nurse shifted closer to Emma and rested a hand on the bed. Emma's lips trembled. "You're taking his side." "I'm taking the baby's side," Margaret said. "Look at you, alone, in a public hospital. You could have prepared better. You could have tried harder with your husband." Emma searched her mother's face for some flicker of love. All she found was judgment dressed as concern. "Please leave," Emma whispered. Margaret blinked, offended. "Excuse me? Please leave," Emma said again, voice steadier. "You don't get to sit here and call me unstable while I bring a life into this world. Not tonight." Margaret stood, clutching her purse like a shield. "You always push away people who try to help." "You," she said. "Don't call me when you can't pay rent." "I won't," Emma said. Margaret left with a click of heels and a cloud of perfume. The door closed. For a long beat, the room just held Emma's breath. The nurse squeezed her hand. "I'm sorry." Emma nodded once. Tears fell without noise this time. "Listen to me," the nurse said softly. "You are not crazy. You are not dramatic. You are in labor, and you are brave." Brave. The word landed and stayed. Emma held it like a small stone warm from the sun. The next contraction took her whole body. She bore down when they told her. She did it again and again. She heard herself making sounds she had never made before. Dr. Ortiz's voice came in. "Pieces. Good. Again. You're right there. I can see the head." Emma clutched the rails and pushed like she was pushing out every lie, every shove, every slammed door. The nurse's face blurred. The clock vanished. The world became one long yes. A cry split the air, high and fierce. Emma fell back, breath ripped from her lungs. The room moved fast and soft. The doctor lifted a small, wet, furious human and laid her on Emma's chest. "Hi!" Emma sobbed, laughter tangled in the word. "Hi, baby. Hi." The baby opened her mouth and protested life. Emma ran her fingers along a damp cheek and felt something in her crack open and pour out like light. "What's her name?" the nurse asked, smiling with her eyes. Emma swallowed. She said the name she had carried in her heart since she was little, since before. Boys and lies and slammed doors. Felt right in her mouth. The nurse wrote it down. They weighed the baby. They wiped her gently. They wrapped her and gave her back. Emma held her and stared and cried and smiled. The nurse placed a small hat on the baby's head, pink and soft. "I'm here," Emma whispered. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." A few hours later, While the baby slept in the bassinet and the room had the quiet of new morning, a different nurse came in with paperwork. "Any family we should call?" she asked. Emma shook her head. "No, it's just us." The nurse nodded. "Then we'll be your family for the day." When the nurse left, Emma reached for her phone. Messages filled the screen. Some from unknown numbers. Some from old friends who had once clapped at her wedding. She opened one. Saw Mark's post. He said you were unstable during pregnancy and left in a rage. "Do you need help?" Emma closed her eyes. She opened another. He says you broke things and screamed. That you threatened him. "I'm sorry, but if that's true, maybe it's better." She put the phone down like it was sharp. Cross town, she knew Mark was telling stories. He was good at it. He would look serious and sad and say words like safety and stability, while Vanessa rested her head on his shoulder and nodded with practiced concern. "Lies," Emma said to the quiet room. "Everybody loves a good lie when it lets them feel kind." While doing harm, she stood and shuffled slowly to the sink, washed her hands, and looked at herself in the mirror. Above the paper towel dispenser, her face was pale and swollen. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were steady. A volunteer knocked and stuck her head in. "Do you want a photo?" she asked. "We take one of every new mom and baby. No cost." Emma thought of Mark's glossy photos with Vanessa. She thought of the neighbors who had stayed inside behind warm curtains while she waited for a cab. She thought of the grape story and the way her mother had worn her judgment like pearls. "Okay," she said. The volunteer held the phone, told her where to stand by the window, and clicked. The photo caught a tired girl and a tiny bundle with a pink hat and a city morning behind them. "Beautiful," the volunteer said. "Do you want me to text it to someone?" Emma shook her head. "Not right now." Alone again, she reached under the thin mattress and pulled out a small fabric pouch she'd tucked in her bag without thinking. Inside, folded into quarters, were 2 old letters from her father. She never went anywhere big without them. The paper had softened at the creases. She smoothed the top letter with her hand. Her father's handwriting was neat and kind, the way he'd been. "If life ever makes you doubt yourself, remember who you are. You don't need anyone to name. You already have a name." Emma smiled a little. She whisper-read the rest and tucked the letters back away. "Not yet," she told herself. "Not tonight." She would keep her secrets where they belonged, close, safe, out of reach of people who used love like a rope. Her door opened again. She expected another nurse. It was Margaret. Emma's stomach dropped. "I asked you to leave." Margaret kept her distance, face tight. "I brought paperwork," she said, holding up a folder. "Mark asked me to explain it to you." Emma stared. "You're kidding." "He thinks, given your state, it would be wise to assign temporary guardianship. Just for a month. Or 2. Until you're stable. You can still visit." "Get out," Emma said, the words clean and simple. "You can't be alone with a newborn," Margaret pressed. "It's too much. You never handled stress." "Well." Emma stood. The room swayed, then settled. She spoke quietly, each word placed where it would. "Hold. You chose him," she said. "When I was pounding on your door 2 nights ago. Do you remember? You looked through the peephole and didn't open. You texted me later to stop causing scenes." Margaret's mouth opened and closed. "I didn't want neighbors involved." "You wanted to be comfortable," Emma said. "You still do. Please leave." Margaret's eyes flashed with something like fear, or maybe anger. "You'll regret pushing me away." Emma stared at her mother for a long moment and then turned her back and lifted her baby. That was answer enough. Margaret left. The door shut. The air in the room felt cleaner. The day moved. Nurses came and went. Someone brought a tray with toast and orange juice. The baby cried and fed and slept and cried again. Emma learned the small language of her daughter. What each sound meant, the difference between hunger and discomfort, the tiny sigh that meant full. In the afternoon, a hospital chaplain knocked and asked if she wanted to talk. Emma thanked him, and said not today. He nodded and left a pamphlet with a phone number anyway. By evening, the city had turned gold outside the window. Emma sat with her baby on her chest and watched the light change. Her phone buzzed once more. A message from an old friend. He says you're sick. Are you? Emma typed, deleted, typed again. She settled on, I'm a mother. She turned the phone face down and focused on the weight of the baby and the sound of her breathing. The room was quiet. The world could talk to itself. In a different part of town, Mark and Vanessa dressed for dinner. Vanessa adjusted her earrings and asked without looking, Did you hear from the hospital? Why would I? Mark said. She made her bed. Right? Vanessa said. She checked her reflection and smiled at herself. Post the photo of the ring. Tonight or tomorrow? Tomorrow, Mark said. Let people get used to the idea first. What idea? Vanessa asked. That I survived her, he said. She watched him, measuring him the way she measured shoes by how long they would last. When night came, Emma asked the nurse to turn the lights low. The baby slept, a small hand on Emma's shirt like a claim. Emma bent her head, touched her lips to the soft crown, and whispered so only one person in the world could hear. You're all I have now, she said. And I swear, one day they'll regret what they did to us. The promise wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It folded itself into the quiet like a seed. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and how did this story speak to you? The baby's cries echoed through the one-room apartment, bouncing off the cracked walls and leaking ceiling. Emma Parker sat up, pulling her daughter against her chest. The night was cold, and the only heat came from the thin blanket she had wrapped around them both. There, sweetheart, Emma whispered, rocking gently. Mommy's here. Mommy's not going anywhere. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She had eaten nothing since yesterday, and the hunger made her dizzy. The baby needed milk more than she needed food. When dawn broke, Emma put her daughter in a second-hand stroller with squeaky wheels and walked to the bus stop. She carried her uniform folded in a bag. The city rushed around her. Business people with coffee, students with headphones, mothers pushing shiny strollers that cost more than her month's rent. Emma walked slower, every step reminding her of exhaustion she couldn't shake. Her first job was scrubbing floors in a wealthy neighborhood. Don't use too much water, the homeowner, a thin woman in pearls, said as she opened the door. It leaves streaks. Yes, ma'am, Emma replied softly. The woman hovered, phone pressed to her ear. Oh yes, I heard. Mark Bennett remarried already. That poor Emma. Though maybe it's better for everyone. She was unstable, screaming in the street while in labor. That's what they say. Emma's grip tightened on the mop. She lowered her head so the woman couldn't see the pain on her face. The woman moved into another room, still talking. Emma's chest rose and fell sharply, but she didn't speak. She had no defense anymore. The world believed Mark's story. At night, Emma worked at the diner. She smiled through aching feet and carried trays heavier than her tired arms wanted to hold. Her daughter slept in a neighbor's apartment, safe but far from her reach. One evening, two women she recognized from her old neighborhood slid into a booth. Is that Emma? One whispered. Yeah, look at her now. Waiting tables. Mark really upgraded, didn't he? Vanessa is gorgeous. Did you see their wedding photos? Emma placed their plates down with steady hands, though her face burned. She looks bitter, the other whispered as Emma walked away. Pathetic. Emma gripped the counter until her knuckles whitened. She wanted to scream, but she kept moving, kept smiling, kept working. Meanwhile, Mark and Vanessa lived like royalty. Their wedding was the talk of the city. White roses hanging from chandeliers, a cake taller than Emma. Vanessa's diamond ring flashing in every photo. Finally found the love I deserve, Mark posted online. Starting our forever in the home we built together. Vanessa captioned her photo. But Emma knew that home. Every room, every chair, every wall painted by her own hands. Her roses, the ones she had planted in the garden, were now Vanessa's backdrop. Her phone buzzed with the photos. She read the comments even when she told herself not to. She looks so much happier than Emma ever did. Mark deserves peace after what he went through. Vanessa is a real wife. Not like that unstable ex. Emma closed the app, hands shaking. The lies traveled faster than she could stop them. At the grocery store, they say Emma threw plates at him. Poor man had no choice. At the laundromat, she still pines for him, I heard. Pathetic, isn't it? Emma clenched her jaw, folding her baby's clothes silently. Even her mother, Margaret, repeated the lies. One afternoon, Emma tried calling her. Mom, can you watch the baby for a few hours? I have a double shift. Margaret sighed. Emma, I can't keep rescuing you. Mark told me how unstable you've been. You scare people. Maybe if you had been calmer. Emma's voice broke. You believe him? I believe what I see, Margaret said coldly. And what I see is a daughter who made her bed and now has to lie in it. The call ended. Emma sat in silence, her baby gurgling on the blanket beside her. Too young to know the cruelty of words. Vanessa made sure to fuel the rumors. At brunch with friends, she leaned back with a smirk. Emma keeps calling Mark, begging him to come back. Can you imagine? Gasps circled the table. She's pathetic, Vanessa laughed. A jealous little ghost haunting us. She's embarrassing herself, one friend agreed. Mark chuckled but said nothing. Vanessa noticed his silence but told herself it didn't matter. He was hers now. One night, exhausted after putting her daughter to sleep, Emma pulled a wooden chest from under the bed. Old, scratched, with iron hinges that creaked when opened. Inside were papers her late father had left her. Letters, certificates, a sealed envelope. Emma unfolded the trust document again, her eyes tracing the numbers she already knew by heart. $20 million. Locked. Safe. Legally hers once she claimed it. She touched the paper like it was alive. The world thought she was poor. They mocked her. Even her mother treated her like a burden. But she held a secret no one knew. Emma stroked the edge of the papers, then kissed her daughter's forehead. Not yet, she whispered. They'll never see it coming. She closed the chest and slid it back under the blankets. Across town, Vanessa began noticing cracks in Mark's perfect smile. She came home early one afternoon, her heels clicking on the tile. Laughter drifted from the living room, female laughter. She stepped inside and froze. Mark was on the couch, leaning close to a blonde woman. His hand brushed her arm. So, dinner tonight? He murmured. The woman giggled. You're terrible. Vanessa cleared her throat. The air snapped. Vanessa, Mark said smoothly, standing. This is a business contact. The blonde grabbed her purse. I should go. When the door shut, Vanessa crossed her arms. Business? Yes, Mark said. Important client. Don't make a scene. She was touching your arm, Vanessa snapped. You're imagining things, Mark said, rolling his eyes. Vanessa's chest burned. She forced a laugh, though her nails dug into her palms. Fine. Business. She walked upstairs, her smile fading the second the door closed. For the first time, she wondered if Emma had been telling the truth all along. Back in her small apartment, Emma fought to survive. She cleaned offices at dawn, waited tables in the evening, and sewed clothes at night by the dim light of a lamp. Her fingers bled from needles, but she kept working. One night, her neighbor knocked. Emma, people are talking again, she said gently. They say, you're unstable, bitter, that you want to ruin Mark's new life. Emma smiled faintly. Let them talk. The neighbor frowned. Doesn't it bother you? Emma looked at her sleeping daughter. It used to. Now, it just reminds me who I'll never be. Again. The city didn't care. Friends had vanished. Family had betrayed her. Mark flaunted Vanessa. Vanessa spread lies. Margaret chose comfort over love. But Emma's eyes were steady now. Her back was straighter. Every whisper of pathetic only added to the fire growing in her chest. Her struggle was temporary. Her strength was building. And one day soon, the same people who mocked her would choke on their laughter. The glass in Mark Bennett's office shook when he slammed the report onto the desk. "What the hell is this?" he barked, glaring at his assistant. The young man shifted nervously. "It's the quarterly numbers, sir." "These numbers are wrong," Mark snapped. "They have to be wrong. They came straight from accounting." "Then fire accounting," Mark shouted, pacing across the office. "First Henderson pulls out now. The Whitmore deal collapses. 2 partners in less than a month. Do you know what this looks like?" The assistant swallowed. "Like trouble, sir." Mark's jaw clenched. He turned his back to the window, staring at the city skyline like it had betrayed him. "Someone's behind this. Someone's trying to bring me down." The assistant hesitated. "There's something else. An anonymous investor has been buying shares in Bennett Global. Quietly. They've acquired almost 10% already." Mark's head snapped around. "What?" "Legal can't identify them yet. They're using holding companies, shells. But they're moving fast." Mark snatched the paper from his assistant's hands and scanned it, his face reddening. "Anonymous investor," he muttered. "Cowards hiding behind paper trails. They think they can play with me? With me." He slammed the paper down. "Get out. Now." The assistant scrambled away, leaving Mark alone with his fury. At home, Vanessa found him pouring whiskey at noon, tie loose, hair disheveled. "Another bad day?" she asked, setting her purse down. Mark glared. "They're circling me." "Who?" "Everyone. Partners pulling out. Investors whispering. And some bastard is buying shares behind my back." Vanessa leaned against the counter. "Maybe it's just business. The market shifts." Mark slammed the glass down. "Don't patronize me, Vanessa. This isn't random. Someone is targeting me." She lifted her hands. "I'm just saying." "No, you're implying I'm paranoid," he growled. "But I know what I built and I know when. Someone's coming for it." Vanessa studied him, her lips curling in a smile he didn't notice. "And what if they succeed? What if they're smarter than you?" Mark's head snapped up. "What did you say?" "Nothing," she said smoothly. "Relax." But when she turned away, her smile sharpened. That night, Vanessa met an old acquaintance in a quiet hotel bar, Charles Whitmore, one of Mark's rivals. "You shouldn't be seen here," Charles said, swirling his drink. "Then don't look so pleased," Vanessa murmured, sliding into the booth. "What do you want, Mrs. Bennett?" "Insurance," she said simply. Mark's slipping. His arrogance is catching up with him. "I don't plan to sync with him." Charles raised an eyebrow. "And what are you offering?" "Information," Vanessa whispered, leaning closer. "Names of suppliers. Upcoming deals. The things he doesn't even tell his board yet." Charles studied her. "Why betray him?" Vanessa smiled. "Because he betrayed Emma. Because he's betraying me too. And because men like him don't stay faithful to anyone but themselves." "I like you. Ruthless. Send me something useful and I'll make sure you have a place when the dust clears." Vanessa clinked her glass against his. "Deal." Across town, Emma Parker stepped out of a cab in a quiet but elegant neighborhood. Her daughter was with a trusted babysitter. Emma's dress was simple, but it fit her well. Her shoes clicked confidently against the marble floor as she entered the skyscraper. The receptionist straightened immediately. "Good afternoon, Miss Parker. Mr. Hawthorne is expecting you." Emma nodded. "Thank you." The elevator doors opened. She caught her reflection in the mirror, no longer the tired, hunched woman begging for work. Her shoulders were back, her eyes sharp. When the doors slid open again, a tall man in a gray suit greeted her with a warm handshake. "Emma," he said, "always good to see you." "Thank you, Mr. Hawthorne," she said softly. He guided her into his office, a room lined with books and quiet power. "You've been patient," he said, opening a file. "Very patient. The trust your father left you is untouched. $20 million. Every cent intact." Emma looked out the window at the city below. "And legally, there's nothing Mark can do?" "Nothing," Hawthorne confirmed. "It's ironclad. Your father was smart. He anticipated men like Mark. This money is yours alone." Emma let the words settle, her heartbeat steady. "Then it's time," she said. "Let's begin." Hawthorne smiled. "As you wish, Miss Parker." For the first time in years, someone spoke her name with respect. Emma's lips curved into the faintest smile. Back in her small apartment, she tucked her daughter into bed. The wooden chest still sat under the blankets, but now its weight felt different. Not just a secret, a weapon. She sat beside her daughter and whispered, "We're not just surviving anymore. We're building. And one day, you'll see the life we deserve." Her daughter stirred, her tiny hand curling around Emma's finger. Emma's eyes glistened, but her smile held. Margaret noticed the change. Her daughter no longer looked broken. She stood straighter. Her clothes, though simple, were cleaner, sharper. There was a calm confidence in her eyes that unsettled Margaret. So one afternoon, Margaret showed up at Emma's door. Emma opened it slowly, frowning. "Mom!" Margaret walked in without waiting for an invitation, her heels clicking on the worn floor. "You've been busy," she said, eyeing the tidy apartment. "Where's all this coming from?" Emma crossed her arms. "Work. Responsibility." "Don't lie to me," Margaret said sharply. "I know you, Emma. You've never carried yourself like this. You've got something. Money. Help. Who gave it to you?" Emma's eyes narrowed. "Why do you care?" Margaret smirked. "Because I deserve to know. I'm your mother. And maybe if you've come into something, you can finally repay me for all the years I carried you." Emma's stomach twisted. "Carried me? You sided with Mark when I begged for help. You called me unstable while I was in labor." Margaret waved a hand. "I was being practical. Mark had stability. You were emotional, reckless. I did what was best for the baby." Emma stepped closer, her voice low but sharp. "Don't pretend you did anything for my daughter. You turned your back on us." Margaret's eyes glinted. "If you found money, you owe me. Don't forget who raised you. Don't forget who can talk." Emma held her mother's gaze. Her voice was cold, steady. "You chose Mark over me when I begged for help," she said. "Don't come crawling now. When the ground falls beneath you, remember you dug it yourself." Margaret blinked, stunned. For once, Emma's voice was sharper than hers. Emma pointed to the door. "Leave." Margaret's mouth opened, closed. Finally, she turned on her heel and stormed out, her perfume lingering behind like poison. Emma shut the door, her hands trembling. Not from fear, but from power. For the first time, she felt taller than her mother. Meanwhile, Mark's world continued to collapse. At a board meeting, he slammed his hand against the table. "You're all cowards. Walking out. When things get tough. You think Bennett Global falls without me? You think I'll let that happen?" One board member cleared his throat. "It's not about you, Mark. It's about confidence. Investors are nervous. Because of lies," Mark barked. "Because someone's spreading poison." Another spoke quietly. "It's not lies. The numbers don't lie. And the anonymous investor, whoever they are, has already secured a significant block. You could be outvoted." Mark's face turned crimson. "Never." Vanessa sat in the back, legs crossed, watching him unravel. She sipped her water, hiding her smirk. After the meeting, she slipped into the restroom and sent a message. "He's losing it. Tonight I'll send you the supplier contracts. They'll cut him off by next quarter." The reply came quickly. "Good." The end is closer than he knows. Vanessa smiled at her reflection. She adjusted her lipstick and whispered, "Insurance." Emma, too, looked at her reflection that night, but hers showed something different. Strength. Calm. A woman who had been broken but rebuilt. She adjusted her coat, tucked her daughter's blanket tighter, and whispered into the quiet, "They think I'm gone. They think I'm weak. They'll learn." Her voice wasn't bitter. It was steady, certain. For the first time, Emma didn't feel like a victim. She felt like the storm on the horizon. The chandeliers blazed above the ballroom, scattering golden light across marble floors polished. So bright they mirrored the shoes of every guest. Waiters moved like shadows, balancing trays of champagne. Cameras flashed as the city's richest and most powerful mingled. At the center of it all stood Mark Bennett, his smile practiced, his hand resting on Vanessa's waist. He wore a custom black tuxedo, his tie knotted tight, his glass lifted in greeting as reporters circled. "Mr. Bennett," one called. "What do you say about the rumors of financial trouble at Bennett Global?" Mark chuckled, smooth as ever. "Rumors are a poor man's entertainment. My company is thriving. Tonight proves it. Look around. The city's finest are here." The crowd laughed politely. Vanessa leaned in, her diamonds catching the light. "Smile bigger," she whispered through her teeth. "They smell nerves." "I'm not nervous," Mark muttered, though his hand trembled slightly on the glass. "Good," Vanessa purred, leaning in for a photo. Flash, flash, flash. The cameras loved them. For a moment, Mark almost believed the lie he was selling, that he was still untouchable. But then the music faltered. Heads turned toward the staircase. A hush spread like a ripple in water. And there she was, Emma Parker. She descended slowly, every step deliberate. Her gown shimmered like liquid silver, her hair swept back, her face serene. No longer the woman abandoned in rags. She carried herself like a queen, reclaiming her throne. The crowd gasped. Whispers flew. "Is that Emma? She looks incredible. Didn't Mark leave her while she was in labor?" Mark's glass slipped in his hand. His face drained of color. "What the hell is she doing here?" he hissed to Vanessa. Vanessa stiffened. "Ignore her." But no one else could. Emma walked straight into the center of the ballroom. The spotlight seemed to follow her naturally. She raised her chin and spoke, her voice calm but commanding. "Good evening." The chatter died instantly. Mark forced a laugh. "Emma, I didn't know they let anyone in." A few uncomfortable chuckles fluttered. Vanessa smirked. Emma's eyes flicked to him, sharp and unbothered. "Don't worry, Mark. I was invited by the board." The crowd gasped. Mark blinked. "The board? What are you talking about?" Emma turned slightly. A man in a tailored suit, Attorney Hawthorne, stepped forward, handing her a folder and a remote. Emma opened the folder with steady hands. "Tonight, an anonymous investor will reveal themselves. The investor who, for months, has quietly bought shares of Bennett Global, until they became the majority shareholder." Mark's laugh cracked. "Whoever it is should thank me. Without me, they wouldn't have anything worth buying." Emma pressed the remote. Screens around the ballroom lit up, displaying documents, transactions, and finally her name. "It's me," she said simply. "Emma Parker." The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, camera flashes. Mark staggered. "That's impossible. You don't have money." Emma's lips curved faintly. "I inherited $20 million from my father, secured in a trust you could never touch. While you mocked me, I invested. Quietly, patiently, and tonight I own what you thought could never be taken from you." The whispers turned to laughter. Not at Emma, at Mark. "You had 20 million? Mark stammered. "And you let me think you were broke?" "You never asked," Emma said, her voice cutting. "Because you never loved me. You married me for what you thought I had. You didn't know my father was smarter than you." The board chair, Evelyn Torres, stepped forward. "As of this evening, Ms. Parker holds controlling interest in Bennett Global. Effective immediately, Mark Bennett is removed as CEO. The crowd gasped again, then burst into chatter. Mark's face twisted. You can't do this. This is my company. Not anymore, Evelyn said coolly. Vanessa's grip slipped from his arm. Her face had gone pale. But Emma wasn't finished. Tonight isn't only about control, she said, clicking the remote again. It's about truth. The screens flickered, showing old emails from Mark's account. His words glared across the ballroom. Her father's money is real. I'll lock it down after the wedding. If the trust is separate property, I'll push for dependency. She'll fold. She always does. Gasped. A woman muttered. He used her. Mark shook his head violently. Fake. Lies. Straight from your server, Hawthorne said firmly. The crowd murmured louder. Emma's eyes stayed on Mark. You never wanted me. You wanted what you thought I carried. Mark's mouth opened and closed like a drowning man. Emma clicked again. New messages appeared. This time not his, Vanessa's. He's slipping. Tonight I'll send you the supplier contracts. Don't worry. I'll make sure his rivals have everything they need. The crowd gasped again. Vanessa's eyes widened. That's doctored, she shrieked. Pulled from your cloud, Hawthorne said. Mark whirled on her. You betrayed me? Vanessa sneered. You betrayed me first. You've never been faithful. I just learned quicker than... Emma. Gasps rippled. Someone laughed. Cameras flashed faster. Don't you dare compare yourself to me, Emma said coldly, her voice slicing through Vanessa's. Bravado. The screen shifted again. This time Margaret. Bank transfers. Jewelry purchases. Notes in Mark's hand. Thank you for supporting me in court. The baby will be better with me. Emma's voice didn't shake. My own mother took money to testify against me, to call me unstable, while I fought for my child. The crowd gasped, horrified. Heads turned toward Margaret, who stood frozen near the back. Emma, please, Margaret stammered. You chose him over me when I begged for help, Emma said, her voice low but firm. Don't. Speak now. Margaret's face crumpled. She tried to push through the crowd, but people pulled back from her, like she was diseased. The room buzzed with betrayal, with humiliation. Emma stepped closer to Mark. His face was pale, his jaw trembling. You threw me out while I carried your child, Emma said quietly, so only those near the stage could hear. You told me to die. You thought I was nothing. But the pain you gave me became my strength. Mark shook his head violently. No, you don't understand. We can fix this. You and me together. We'll tell them. You'll tell them lies. Emma cut in. That's all you know. He dropped to his knees, hands shaking. Please, Emma, don't take everything. Emma's gaze didn't soften. I'm not taking anything. I'm taking back what was already mine. The crowd clapped, some slow, some thunderous. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras captured every angle. Vanessa slipped toward the door, but people whispered as she passed. Traitor, snake, ruined. She disappeared into the night without looking back. Margaret tried to follow but was blocked by relatives who hissed. How could you? She shrank and slipped out another door. And Mark? Mark knelt in the center of the ballroom, the man who had once thought himself untouchable, now stripped bare before the city. Emma looked down at him one last time. Her voice carried over the silence. Betrayal always circles back, Mark. And tonight, it found you. She turned, walking through the parted crowd. Heads bowed as she passed. Outside, her car waited. Inside, her daughter slept peacefully. Emma climbed in, kissed her child's forehead, and whispered, We're free. The car pulled away, the city lights glittering like stars. Emma Parker had not risen because she destroyed them. She had risen because she rebuilt herself. And nothing, not betrayal, not lies, not even love lost, could take that from her again.